What's up, party people in the house? Yes. We're about to rock this weekend the right way. Start your Friday off right with the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Zooming in from Brooklyn, New York. Today, we're bringing somebody in from Denver, Colorado. Before I bring my guest on, the message of the week is something I creeped off of his LinkedIn account, which we'll learn more about and how popular he is on LinkedIn. But this is just a really, he puts out a lot of great quotes and content, but this one really stuck out to me. Recognize your roots, but realize they are for growing. With that, bringing on Travis Lachner, otherwise known as TLock.
Yo, loving it. Good morning, almost afternoonish, I guess, over there on the East Coast. Correct. Thanks for having me, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on. You look strikingly like your picture.
I keep thinking I need to refresh my headshot because it's like really old, and then I'm real, and then, not really. No, pretty simple package deal here we got.
Beautiful. How's everything today? You're in Denver, right?
Indeed. I'm actually a touch outside of Denver, technically in Colorado Springs, but the SEO value of having my LinkedIn say Denver is much better.
I got that. That's awesome. So Travis here is, for those of you listening, he's a media-based marketing specialist. But his background is in music and production, and he's actually an athlete as well. So we share a couple of common interests. So I want to take it back, speaking of roots, and talk about your beginnings, like in music and production and fitness, and how that led into and supported your undertaking in marketing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been such a journey of evolution and pivot points throughout my life, and a lot of it has, it's led me to this lane I'm in right now that feels like this is the one, but we'll see. But yeah, I grew up, my like the first 20 years of my life are pretty simple in the storytelling version. I played hockey pretty much every day of the week, had practices and games every weekend, and traveled around the country playing travel hockey tournaments. So that was my childhood. It embedded a lot of my work ethics, my character, my personality. Like a lot of that was just baked into my general existence, just growing up being an athlete. So I rode that from about age 4 to 24 was the end of the line for me. End of college hockey. It was clear it was not going any further than that. And that was kind of the end of the line. And I had this, it's okay, I had a backup plan. I was going to be a music producer. So that was sort of my alter ego that I had discovered throughout like middle school, high school, sort of finding your creative being. I had discovered self-producing music, creating everything from scratch on your computer, doing the vocals in your bedroom, and was just fascinated with that concept. So I pursued music and the EDM world and DJing for a while, and ultimately discovered that was not a super feasible route either on your soul or your bank account. So I eventually had a moment of everything in my life coming to kind of this cross point of hockey was finally over. I was finally coming to grips with detaching from my music world, and even actually a long-term relationship I was in was ending. One that I thought, again, like I think this is the one, and all of this was happening at the same time. So I had this massive identity crisis, struggle, whatever it's officially called, but it was the lowest point of my life that I've been like, okay, what the hell are we doing here? Like, what is this situation? What am I here for? And I had discovered branding and entrepreneurship. And since that moment, it really changed the trajectory of my life. I built my first company and business in the cannabis space, discovered community growth, brand building, all of this whole new world I didn't know existed of you can create a brand and create a business from scratch. And I just poured my heart and soul into that and built a company from startup to acquisition in about 18 months, and was just like, whoa, okay. So from there, I transitioned into a consulting role, like more of an advisor, which gave me the hands-off approach of seeing like how you can zoom out and support other people from consulting and strategy, et cetera. So that really set the foundation for me to become a creative director and work kind of in the agency of environment. I'm like, okay, I could do this for myself. Let's try it for other companies. And from there, just worked with every type of brand, every level of industry, every type of company. And then very recently starting to focus much more in, rather than just helping anybody with everything. I'm zeroing in on this media production and live stream productions as a media-based marketing strategy. And that's been kind of the sweet spot I'm carving out this last year, that's just been beyond valuable since I've jumped in. So that's the general primary pivot points and trajectory that's brought me here to this wonderful seat I spend way too much time in.
It's funny. I kind of had this feeling that cannabis was coming up, being that you're from Colorado. I didn't realize it was going to drop that quickly in the show, but it was like, it's going to happen. And you did it. So we got one check mark off the list.
Love it.
I want to know, asking especially from the music production background, because I too come from a music background. Actually, I went to school for music. What did you study in college?
Oh boy, this was
woo. Okay.
Yet another. Yeah, for a long while I wanted to be a journalist. So I pursued what the degree ended up being is like communications and media management. But the original vision, I wanted to be like an investigative journalist or like a high level like media producer. But the environment was just awful. So like 2010s, 2014 was around like my college realm zone, and that was just like the demise of the news industry and media industry getting taken over by like BuzzFeed style and HuffPost stuff. And I was just like, this is so not the industry I thought I was wanting to pursue. I was wanting like spotlight style, like investigative stories and stuff. And that was just not the direction the industry was going. So yet another great, brilliant plan in my head that didn't work out nearly as great in reality.
Well, we learn from our failures or losses. Like if it was easy, we wouldn't try so hard. And a lot of what, especially following your LinkedIn account, it's about pushing and growing. And like the quote today is about growing. And it's funny, the roots that are under a lot of strain are the ones that often like wine roots. They're strong as can be, and they're just like taxed all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They don't grow well. Wine, like the drinking grapes don't grow well in like on the East Coast, they don't grow well because it's just too good. The soil is too good. They like that dry, like just like the most where nothing else will grow, like cactuses and winemaking grapes. And who doesn't want to be like wine? So even more to my point is like you like myself, like got into these rather creative and like shareable information type of backgrounds, like music, journalism. I was really into writing. In fact, I entered college as a music major, and we had to do this like English entrance, whatever. I can't even remember what it was. This was in the 90s, so it was very blurry at this point. But we had to write this essay, like a long one, and I submitted it. And this was like before school even started, like earlier in that summer. We had to go for a few days and like do all this stuff. And the English department asked to see me. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I bomb this thing? You know? And they pulled me aside and they were like, we see here you're a music major. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, have you considered being an English major? And I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. I see where you're going. I was like, no. I'm going to play my way through school. Like there will be no writing if I have my way. But over time, and I got into the media game like this, I got into the social media and like branding and content production much later. But there was a point where I realized it was all content all the way along. I've been building content for 25 years. And it really took like this point of, like you were saying, all these things had to click. I had to lose in some major battles too, you know, and continue to, but it's all pushed me to this point with business. Like restaurants were my second thing. It was like my backup, you know, I'd always done it and it ended up working out and making, you know, a career in the food and beverage industry in New York, which is not bad. You know, it's been fun. But it's not the only thing I want to do, but it's like, that was like the business side. And then I was doing all this content creation, whether it was music or writing, and it's all kind of coming to a head. Was that a similar path for you?
Yeah, no, I'm actually having that. Yeah, pretty much that moment this last year of
Nice.
everything I've utilized in the music realm of general production, putting together the high level production. It's multiple pieces that all need to come together. The artist, any samples or other producers you're bringing in the mix, kind of that high level strategy. The technical details. I hadn't realized how far ahead of the game I became in like audio engineering, podcast mastering, like little stuff like that, and like noise gates and compression. Like that's just second nature to me, is like a whole new world. So that's been coming to use in streaming and media production. Like audio is a huge piece of that puzzle. And then, yeah, the creative element, as I alluded to earlier, when I was kind of in that help anybody with everything type of stage for like 4 or 5 years as a creative director, probably 80 or 90% of the time that ended up becoming a content marketing strategy for most of our clients and businesses, whether they were a solo CBD solopreneur or like a high level enterprise like company with multiple assets. Almost always there was a content marketing strategy of some sort. And what I've really zeroed in on was just doing a lot of things I was already doing for clients and fitting into their strategy, but now finding a way that I can do it like way better than anybody else. And many other things, like just writing a blog article. It's difficult to be like the best or like a top 1% or 1% writer. But for this culmination at the cross points of media and marketing and music and creating that experience, I found I was able to tap into that 1% of like, yo, this is like really a lot better than like anything else I've done. Like, this is awesome. So I've actually been not only discovering those moments this last year, but been having more of them as I go further down this path of live stream production, and plugging it into a repurposing strategy is a big piece of the equation over here. But yeah, as far as that convergence and that those lanes starting to merge, it seems like, yeah, all three of my prior lanes in life have kind of started coming to the surface here this last year.
That's awesome. Really cool. We're going to take a quick break. All right. So grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea, whatever you need. We'll be back in just a minute, everybody. Woo woo. All right, folks, if you're just tuning back in, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. Today, we're zooming to Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, apparently, but Denver is better SEO for all you SEO fans out there. Talking to Travis Lachner, aka TLock, about his background in sports, namely hockey, studying journalism in college, moving on to a music production career, and all of these things kind of culminating into being a media-based marketer, and how actually things not working out are what has pushed you into this thing where you're like, oh, I think we might, by golly, I think we may have done it. Like, and that's for like up and coming entrepreneurs or people, it's interesting that you talked about like how the last year in the pandemic, and I even wanted to ask you in a minute about a post that you put up about that maybe a month or so ago. A lot of people, I'm in a similar process now where I'm starting to consult for people, and it largely centers around social media, podcasting, and just small business management. There's a lot of things that, being a restaurant owner is very scrappy, and you kind of deal with a bunch of sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. You deal with a lot of it's like frontline. You're in the battle zone all the time, as compared to maybe like a more digital based business. So it's easy to offer advice on war when you've been in war. But I'm finding through like clubhouse rooms, and I've done a number of masterminds and the radio show, all these things. There's a lot of people right now that are looking to either go into business for themselves. Maybe they were laid off, or maybe they realized how fragile their existence was at their company with all the, the strings being pulled back under economic strains. So I think there's a big market for that right now too, which is an interesting part, is that the timing is probably pretty good as far as client acquisition as well. But you posted something, it was maybe like a month or so ago, about being an introvert and how the pandemic, and especially like going live all these times, has really helped you. So there's these two things that have happened for you during this time period where you were, because of not necessarily failures, but just like things didn't work out the way you had hoped to. Same for me, the music industry. It was going well. I was doing okay, but I hated it. I really was just like, yep. I love music, but I despise what's happening with it and to me because of it. And so I just was like, I still can do whatever I want on my own. I have my own studio. I can. What you drinking, by the way? I said coffee or tea. I can't tell if you're drinking like Red Bull or like beer or
sponsored by Monster.
TV. I know you haven't turned the label. Turned the can.
Turn the label.
Well, I have guys sometimes that are like cracking wine at like high noon, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's like
not quite there yet. It is Friday, okay. But not quite at there yet.
So I'd be curious to hear just like your thoughts on that, like the pandemic. Because for me, the pandemic, I don't want to say it was great. First of all, I didn't die, which is good. And nobody I know, none of my friends, and like people, we all got sick. Well, especially in New York, we all basically got COVID, and a lot of us before things even shut down. But it really set up a lot of the foundation for a lot of kind of amazing things. You just kind of elaborate on your experience a little more in that, not necessarily like, oh, I got X number of clients, but mentally like how it affected you.
Yeah, no, I mean, this pandemic, I believe, really was the catalyst. I may have eventually kind of stumbled towards this lane, but this was definitely the push and the pull. So to continue the exact same theme we've kind of been seeing here in the entrepreneurial journey, in the beginning of 2020, I had finally started taking LinkedIn seriously, started the content creation game, whatever, and I had came to the conclusion of like, okay, well, the real value of this is building the relationships. So it's great to have online connections, online followers. So I started planning an event in early of 2020 and had set everything up to kind of do like a LinkedIn mix and match, had booked the speakers, booked the venue, had everything set up for a downtown Denver, like LinkedIn event. And COVID came and it was like literally the week they had lockdown, shut down, like in the first few cities and stuff. Of course, right when we had it planned. So I had the option of just saying F it and canceling the entire thing.
You can curse. It's okay. You can say fuck.
And yeah, so essentially I was fucked. and rather than canceling it entirely, I decided to test this little thing called Zoom and downloaded Zoom, bought it, and set up our speakers through that. You may recognize one of them, John Palmar from Shay Rowbottom's world was on the come up, and I just brought him in as a random guest, and we had a virtual event. It wasn't really super planned. It was kind of last minute, but it flipped so many switches in my head of people that were just like asking and calling and booking calls with John right after it was done. Had tons of people asking me like, yo, great job. Are you doing more of these? Like, when's the next one? And I was like, yo, what? Like, I just downloaded Zoom yesterday. So started doing more of those. I'm very iterative. As you can tell, I'm open to pivoting. Yeah. So I had seen this positive feedback signal of people being like, yo, this is awesome. We want more. So started doing more of them in Zoom. And eventually started filling the Zoom rooms. So we started doing public streams rather than it being like Zoom semi-private Zoom events. Mm-hmm. And then it was just off to the races there, because then I started thinking of it more like TV shows and talk shows, and we put together an improv show. Just so many ideas started to crack open when it came to live stream productions. So honestly, I was just kind of testing the waters, experimenting with so many things. The same thing I would do in music. Let's try this style. Let's try this genre. And was seeing what worked, what didn't work, and really zeroed in on this equation that is extremely valuable for businesses, for entrepreneurs, for anybody trying to build their brand or community, where they could invest an hour into this one show per week, and it becomes a community event, a recurring event, like people want to show up and come to. The lead generator of interviews, like how you can bring people on as guests and interviews, is now a lead generator. And then you can publish it either as a live stream, as a podcast, if you set it up right, or just as recorded video series, recorded video show. And that alone is already big wins for anybody that would be interested in building their brand. And then the additional piece that I've kind of added in from the agency realm was all of the post-production. So now from that 1 hour a week, we essentially have a limitless source of content that we can repurpose, make montages, promo trailers, parody trailers, just a virtually limitless pool of content from a person investing 1 hour a week. And that's like that sweet spot that I'm discovering is super valuable for some people that don't have the ability to invest in a 10 or 12 or 14 hour video, as far as production and scripting and editing and all of that. Like, if I can handle all of the production and post-production, there's a sweet spot for people that just want to show up, do their thing for an hour, and then the rest is all ready to rock and roll. And that's the sweet spot that I've been zeroing in on. But really the catalyst was that this COVID moment of having to switch that event to a virtual one. And from there it was off to the races, with leveling up those productions in different creative ways.
I remember that event. I remember you promoting it. I had just gone to the executive producer of talkradio.nyc had invited me to this networking event, like right across the street from Grand Central. And it was the first time I'd ever gone to anything like that. And I ended up in a small breakout group with a lady who was like a major marketer at LinkedIn. And so we just like talked, and this was like the last week in February, something like that. And maybe it might've even been March. I can't remember. And we either way, we ended up talking on the phone like early March, and it was right around the time you were doing that. And so this like light bulb started to go off in my head, where I was like, oh, I could do like these. And I was doing little things kind of at the restaurant, but I had not roped in, like gotten specific about LinkedIn or like Instagram or Twitter relationships. And I actually followed through on one of them. And I had a lady, it's funny, same for me. A lot of people were asking me, we used to do all of our interviews in studio. The studio is right by Madison Square Garden. And it was live, and I would sit across the table from my guests, and people would reach out to me and say, hey, can I be on your show? And I'm like, yeah, you're in New York? And I'm like, no. Like, you coming? They're like, no. I'm like, sorry, man, I don't do this like remote thing. I kind of like frowned upon it. And one lady, though, actually from LinkedIn was like, yeah, actually, my husband's from New York and we're going to be there in a couple of weeks. And she wanted to promote this thing, this blockchain thing she was doing. So I was like, come on in. And it was like right at that same time. And I was like, wow, we can actually do this. And then whoop-pow, the hammer came down, the world shut down. And I remember having to go like do that first Zoom. And I was like, damn, I don't know how this is going to go. But it ended up being really like the best thing ever. It was like, I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing.
No, I'm definitely sold. I've reached the point where now when I have somebody that calls me on a normal phone, like just a normal phone call, I'm like, what is this? Like, why are we doing this? And
Zoom, please.
And then like, yeah, one day, yeah, we'll have in-person stuff, but like the energy, like efficiency formula in my head is like, yo, I can have like 99% of my meetings right here if I need to. So it's going to be hard to jump back into the, yo, you want to go grab coffee? And then like a 15-minute coffee becomes like an hour and 15-minute trek. And you're like, yeah, I can't do that like 6 times a week. Like, what? So it'll be interesting, but no, I'm glad you can resonate with the same experience.
Yeah, very similar. Speaking of coffee, it's time for another break. So grab your coffee, grab your Monster. I got some seltzer, whatever you need, and we'll be back in just a minute, everybody. All right, everybody, we're gonna keep it rocking here with TLock, Travis Lachner, listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. We're talking about media-based production and great. Just kind of mic drop section back there, Travis, on really leveraging the live stream. So I'm going to kind of, Stephen G. Pope was on the show. I know you guys are buddies last month, and I did the same thing to him. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit and see if just, guinea pig style. So for me, something similar, I was invited to host a show here on this station in September of 2019. That's when it was. Yeah. So like not long before everything shut down, and like no background at all. Just like I was a guest on another show, and Sam, the executive producer, was like, you got a good face for radio, kid. You want to do your own show. And I was like, yeah, I heard this is a good idea. And I was just starting to, same thing, like wasn't doing enough proper marketing for my businesses, and all these people were also asking me for help, and it was kind of suggested like you should do some consultation and coaching kind of thing. I'm like, all right, all these pieces could start to come together. But at first I was just winging it, going to the studio. I'd bring friends. Luckily I'm in like a high talent area, all my like every neighbor is just like amazing and owns their own business, and like Brooklyn's like this epicenter of entrepreneurship right now. And so I just started like bringing a bunch of my friends on and like stumbling and falling, but they picked me up and made me look good and everything. And then everything kind of, the kibosh came on. But it was also like right before that in January, I had hernia surgery and I was laid up for like 10 days. And like, I'm a like busy, go guy. I don't stop to smell the roses much, but that gave me this opportunity to kind of step back and just like, I couldn't do jujitsu, I couldn't do anything. I just had to like chill. And I just like assessed the landscape of what was happening in terms of social media, the podcast. And then it really started to kind of click for me. And the idea of like building relationships and community, like which I've done for years physically, but it didn't occur to me necessarily that was like the approach for social media and digital outreach as well. But it kind of clicked. And then boom, we're on Zoom, and I'm pulling people from all over North America. And like, I'm in these podcasting communities, I'm in these marketing communities. Like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. And people, same as you, people are like, oh, you're actually like farther along. And I'm like, really? Like, I feel like I'm at the bottom, but they're like, I put in the work, but now I'm looking to level up. So I host this show every week, but I want to really like magnify it. And I've been doing a lot of the work myself in terms of the post-production and just trying to market the show. So what would be your advice? Or if I came to you and said, okay, I do this hour show, I'm very busy, but I really want to like maximize the output. what would be like your steps to either help me get that done or be like a done for you service? What would you kind of offer?
Yeah, no, this adventure, lots of people are in this equation, as it ultimately becomes much more of, a time energy equation. Even at your max capacity, so max production would be somebody following you around 24/7, Gary V style. For the 99% of the world that doesn't have that, a team following you around of documentarians and videographers, all this stuff, a strategic setup around your show, whether it's a live stream, a podcast, or just recorded video that you want to share as a web series. The strategy there is just getting crystal clear on who it's for. A lot of people have the broad dilemma of we just want to reach everybody and help everybody. So that's typically the first place to start. Same way I would with a content marketing strategy of getting laser specific on the buyer persona, in this case, the target audience. And then essentially you have two lanes to choose when it comes to picking your route of monetization. Essentially, there's monetizing the show through the audience, which would be like through sponsorships, just you want more reach and more viewers. And you can sponsorship that way, but it's a heavy focus on increasing the numbers. So it's a slightly different strategy than the other direction, which is using your show as the top of your funnel or a portion of your funnel, mid funnel or somewhere. So you would want to plug in to your buyer persona, your current product or service, whatever your offering is. And if you can merge those two worlds with your show, that's the sweet spot that we would want to hit, is finding something that either your audience or your guests are going to be pooled into that world, whether it's a community, it could be as simple as an email automation chain that tracks them down the next 12 weeks or something. But you want it to be pooling people into your world. That's the continuous cycle that we see with media, with any type of social media presence or digital presence. It's not a one and done type of thing. That's what a lot of people think of it as, like just like a single event. I think of it much more like an interoperating like machine, like a media machine you want to be building. And the monetization piece is just the output, but you want to be able to have those multiple stages, which are usually stuff like the micro content is top of funnel that has the most reach, but usually the least impact. They're short little clips or text posts or image posts that will be seen by a lot of people, but isn't going to have a super deep impact. So then you start using the middle funnel for good interview clips or behind the scenes type of stuff, stuff that pulls people a little bit deeper into your world. They understand your experience with martial arts and interests. And then really the deepest portion of what I see the value in live shows or live streams is that end of funnel, like authentic engagement. Like when somebody spends 90 minutes on stream with you, like they feel you, they know your vibes, they know your energy, they know your dogs that bark in the background that pop up. Like it's a different level of connection when you reach that last portion. So that's what I've really seen, where I've seen these media productions the most valuable. Is it's not your end all be all source of everything, but if you already have a business and an offering you can plug people into, that's the ideal route I'm seeing. Because a lot of people in the traditional, if you just hop in and you're like, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to start a show, your natural inclination is just, we want as many audience, we want as many viewers as possible and let's get a sponsorship. Like, and it's just so easy to lose. Same way we see it in music. Like it's so easy to lose the soul and the connection and everything when you go that route. So it's really about just having a clear strategy from the start. So there's a little bit of like post-production processes and systems and stuff you can optimize to maximize your money or your energy or your effort. But ultimately, it's just about having a crystal clear strategy of who is this show for? What are they getting from that show? And then where do we plug them into? Whether it's a community, a coaching service, a physical product. If you have alignment, it just becomes a continuous leveling up, I guess, or a continuous machine that you're always moving the needle a little bit. It's not like more of like, I guess, a webinar approach would be the opposite strategy of it's one event designed for conversion and then you're good. I kind of just think of it as an ongoing machine that, you know, this with the community building you've done, I'm sure, is it's not just like a single task on your checklist. So that would really be the strategy from my end, would be getting crystal clear on your persona, your offering, and then how can we reshape this show or any shows you're developing to plug people into those equations, whether it's guests, people from the audience, or even people they know. A lot of the times you don't even realize, the extended network of people that'll say, yo, I just watched a stream on XYZ. I know you needed help on ZYX. So here you go. That's really the biggest piece I see, is not having a clear strategy or purpose attached to the media. It's like a lot of people just do it because they feel like, well, everybody else has a podcast, so I felt like I needed to have a podcast. And sure, maybe that'll work out for you, but it's not likely.
So you do offer some production guidance geared towards the outcome.
Yep. So the complete done for you packages that I've kind of been stumbling into are essentially like strategy and consulting sessions to build out the show. Any prep work needed before going on air. So whether it's like studio setup, media coaching, audio, why does my mic sound like crap? Like what, just all those one-off things, to make you confident. Basically my goal is for somebody to go on camera and they don't have to worry about any of the bullshit that comes along with, the guest's stuck in the Zoom room and the stream on Facebook is downgraded to the wrong quality and the comments aren't loading on this, and like all the stuff that can just make you so distracted. People feel that and see that. So if I can create an experience where the talent or somebody just jumps on camera and the show is ready, they don't have to worry about the tech going wrong, and then they're just fully focused on it, that gives me the best quality episode to now slice and dice everything into micro content. So it's really that clear purpose and strategy, and then the production is just basically trying to get ahead of all of the problems of what can go wrong, and then the post-production is how can we maximize this effort we've already invested. So a lot of times that's just, again, back to brand alignment and that buyer persona. Sometimes it's going to be funny and entertaining micro content clips that are going to work. Other times it's going to be those more like authoritative mic drop moments, if that's more of, if you're an author or something in that type of realm. So it's really flexible lanes, but a lot of it's just focused on clear strategy, as much pre-production support I can offer, and then the post-production is a bottomless pit of your content pool, pretty much. At that point, if we're doing things right.
Nice, very cool. All right, one more quick break, and we come back. I want to talk about your podcast, The Beast Node, and just like what else you got going on. All right, so nice. Thanks out, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap this puppy up once again. Zooming in from Denver, Colorado, we got Travis Lachner here giving great advice, just total bombs on how to leverage your live stream, your podcast, any video content you have. If you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, or you just got a message you want to share. It's funny, a friend of mine, she's been in a bunch of Clubhouse rooms. She's like, I got a job. I don't want to like start all this. I just want to share my message of love and joy. And it's like, cool. And she's putting the work in, but it's like, it could also be that just somebody that's just like, I just have a message I want to share, and helping them figure that out, how to do that best. So tell us about the Beast Node. What is this all about? You even hopped on TikTok, right? We talked about that a little bit for a minute.
Try a little bit. Yeah. So I am very mindful about my platform approach. Like I'm definitely at a like max bandwidth situation in my life over here. So TikTok has been part of the equation. But in general, I think the community slash it started as a podcast, but it's growing to become so much more. The Beast Node that you just mentioned is essentially what came to fruition from that COVID clarity moment. When I was mentioning that virtual event dilemma, everything that kickstarted then, around that same time, we also had all of our clients in the agency side just hit the big red button, like pause spending. Like nobody knew what was going on with the pandemic. Nobody knew anything. So I didn't realize how busy I was, just staying busy with all kinds of clients. And I had this moment I've been calling my COVID clarity of like that. Everything paused. There was no client work to do. We stocked up the house with food. Like I was like, I couldn't, like, what are we doing here? It was just time to think and like be with myself for the first time in years. I was just staying busy with any client, any work, helping everybody. And when this pause came, I kind of had this moment where I've recognized in my life I've had powerful pivot points. One of them has been discovering the School of Greatness. Both the book and the podcast from Lewis Howes was a big impact in my life when I was kind of mentioning those darker moments, being able to turn around. That was a large catalyst of that. So I've always had in my head of like recognizing how powerful a piece of media or a book or a podcast can be in the right moment at the right time when people hear the right words can shift their trajectory and not only their life, but now the lives of people around them as well. And I had recognized that value for so long and always had this pipeline dream of like, yo, I'm going to make a podcast one day. I'm going to make a show. I'm going to this and just never did it. So finally, when the COVID clarity moment came and I had all this extra bandwidth, this extra time to think, I was like, why would you not? Like, why would you not? And it was just this culmination again of everything I had done prior to that coming together all in one, and wanted to really build it out under this brand called the Beast Node. And the acronym for Beast is for business, entertainment, art, and sports talent. So I wanted to create this home base of absorbing people's story, capturing their story to have it just recorded on history forever, kind of their version of their story, and then their best advice to be an elite, like high performance human. It was across all of those mediums: business, entertainment, art, and sports. So that hybrid vision really was the core of this community. I started the podcast, and it was originally only supposed to be a podcast, but now it's grown into live stream productions, into a Discord community that's going like 24/7. And it's just become so much more than just a show. So it was something yet again that was supposed to be a tiny little seed. And just watering it and iterating every week has led me to what it's become now. So it's just a relentless community of extremely supportive supporters. We've got artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, all mixing it up and mingling in this little community we've got building. And it's just been amazing so far, but I think it's really only the beginning of this journey. So I think I see a much higher level multimedia expansion in the coming years, beyond just a podcast. But it was a catalyst for sure. For some reason, yeah, that just having that time to sit with yourself and let those pipeline dreams come to the surface rather than pushing it off. Oh, one more year, one more, whatever. That was just the biggest moment for me. And now the more I can do that for other people, the more energy I have. And that's where it's just been this reciprocation of helping people bring their ideas to reality. I think the biggest shame, the worst thing that can happen in life is somebody going to their grave with their dreams and with their ideas stuck in their head, and they never got a chance to write it or to share it or to do it. And that's the moment I want to alleviate for as many people as possible. So whether they want to write a book or write a podcast or start a show or be a pop star, like that was where the music world, like in me, I just want to help people's ideas get converted to reality. And that's the lane I've discovered, and there's so much positive energy and positive feedback there that it would be dumb to ignore.
Yeah, I love that. That's like basically my mission statement. And you're preaching to that's the situation I'm in. I mean, I had one day off since everything shut down, just because I lost half my staff and everything got crazy busy. Like, it was insane. It's been insane. And I'm like, I want to do this thing. I was editing a lot more video and doing all this stuff. Now I just don't have the time. So I may be calling you here soon. but I love that. I love your energy, and that's what it really comes down to as well. It's supposed to be the other way around. I'm supposed to bring people on, right? And they fall into my funnel. But I write on.
We were just chatting about this. You need to clarify strategy.
My buddy, he's got a food delivery like marketplace kind of business, and he was on the show and he pitched to me on the show, and I totally took the bait, and I was like, "Fuck, this was supposed to be the other way." I love it. Sometimes you have to give to receive.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to wrap this up, man. Thank you so much. I mean, this is fantastic. I'm looking forward to like the micro content from this, because there's so many great little gems.
True.
Where can people get in contact with you? What's the best way if somebody wants to ask you questions or potentially procure your services? Where's the best way to
LinkedIn is my home base at the moment. I am exploring the platform hops. I've been experimenting with Twitch and TikTok, but right now LinkedIn home base for sure. Travis Lachner, Lachner. That's going to be your best bet. And then anybody interested in joining our community that I was referencing here, the Beast Node community, if you're an entertainer, an athlete, an artist, or any type of creative being, we'd love to have you in the mix. Feel free to just jump to beast.club. And you can jump in there to join our little family adventures we got going. But that's pretty much it. LinkedIn or beast.club will bring you to our little home base. You can hop in and join the mix with us.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm definitely going to be in touch, and there will be some post-prod of this show, but let's continue the conversation. You got me pumped.
Yes.
I hope you are all pumped, because we got a great weekend lined up. Let's go get it. We'll see you next week, everybody. Peace out.
Cheers.